Hello students, welcome to Legacy IS Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss about an island group of India which has been in the news headlines for quite some days. We are going to talk about Lakshadweep, a small island group situated in the Arabian Sea, 300 to 400 kilometers from the coastline of Kerala. So in this video, we are going to discuss about three major things about Lakshadweep. First is the unique geography and how Lakshadweep Island has came into existence, how it formed. Second, unique history of Lakshadweep. And third, few brief points about the important cultural elements of the Lakshadweep. So let us try to understand first of all about Lakshadweep, that why it has been in the news headlines for quite some days. So obviously, if you are following the news, you might have come across an article where Prime Minister Narendra Modi made a recent trip there, and it was due to this trip and further controversy caused by some of the Maldivian politicians, Lakshadweep became a kind of national conversation. So the picturesque islands have long been touted as a hidden gem for Indian tourists because of two reasons. First of all, it has a beauty of immense nature due to its unique geography, surrounded by beautiful blue waters from all the sides. And also culturally, if we talk about, islands are very unique as compared to any other mainland region of India. Basically, if we talk about in the religion that is practiced in Lakshadweep, it is largely Islam. However, the nature and the kind of Islam that is being followed or practiced in the Lakshadweep is something that is not seen anywhere else in India. And the islands share ethnic, linguistic, as well as cultural links with not one community but several communities such as Malayalis from Kerala, Arabs, that is from Arabian islands, Arabian this peninsula, Tamils, as well as the Kannadigas alike. Now, if we talk about the pre-Islamic Hindu society that is believed by historians used to exist and live on the island. So, Andrew Forbes, a well-known historian, he has said that there can be a little doubt that the first settlers on the Lakshadweep, the people who inhabited Lakshadweep Islands in first instance, were Malabari sailors. Malabar refers to a region which extended all the way through the coastline of Kerala and in the Karnataka up to the Mangalore region. So that part is called as Malabar. So Malabari sailors, as per historians, were the first settlers on the Lakshadweep Island, quite possibly castaways. Now, castaways is a term generally used for such kind of sailors who are stranded on islands due to breakdown of the ships or due to inclement weathers, and thus they will not be or they're not able to move away from the island. So these castaways then started to reside on the islands, and then from there the population of Lakshadweep has grown up. The source of this particular information can be traced back to a famous published book that is called as a History of the Lakshadweep Islands, published in year 2007. Apart from that, Andrew Fall also believed that there is a strong evidence to suggest that a wave of migration has happened to the Lakshadweep Island, which began somewhere in the 7th century CE, that is 7th century Common Era. However, it is impossible to pinpoint when exactly it has begun. We can give a rough time frame, but not the exact time frame. However, these immigrants were largely Malabari Hindus. Okay, then what are the evidences? Since Andrew Forbes has claimed that it was the Malabar Hindus who first inhabited the island, later on conversion happened to Islam. So evidences can be traced back in the tradition and culture of the Lakshadweep. First of all, many oral traditions are there that refer, that is basically transmitted from one generation to other generation among the Lakshadweep Islanders. It specifies the legends that are difficult to validate. However, the legends are something that is very similar to the Ramayana legends that we have in the mainland India. Second, if you look at the caste structure that exists in the Lakshadweep, even among the Muslim community today, also refer to a similar kind of caste structure that was characteristic of a caste Hindu society. Third point, the Marumakathayam, that is a kind of matrilineal system of inheritance which is being followed in the Lakshadweep. That is something that is rarely observed in the Islamic practices, and thus this matrilineal system of inheritance is also supposed to have basically been contributed by the Hindu community that used to reside here, and since then the same system has then continuously followed up till the recent times. And last, we can say a lot of buried idols have been discovered from the Lakshadweep Islands, and the existence of several traditional island songs where Lord Ram is praised, and also snake worship is something that is commonly seen across the island groups. So these three things, the discovery of buried idol, the song praising Lord Ram, as well as the snake worship and this kind of custom significantly pinpoint toward the Hindu history of this particular island. Now the question comes, the historians try to answer that why then the population converted to Islam and how the conversion to Islam has happened. In this case, Andrew Forbes, again the same historian, he has said that islanders converted to Islam not in a small or short period of time, but the conversion from Hinduism to Islam has happened over a very extended, long period of time. And the reason and how it conversion has happened, he believed that it is because of regular contact. Now again, if you look at the geography of Lakshadweep, it is an island group. So obviously, it is an island group lying between the Indian mainland as well as Arabia in the northwest. So due to this region, many times Lakshadweep was a region where Arab merchants and Arab sailors used to travel across whenever they want to come to the Malabar coast, that is the coast of Kerala and part of Karnataka. So it is through the Arab merchants and Arab sailors, it is believed that the Islamic influence began to increase and further develop in the Lakshadweep. So Islamic influence in Lakshadweep came through the Arabs rather than through the Mappila community of Malabar. That is, Mappila community is resident of Malabar region, Kerala region. So they are the community which are now in found high percentage over Lakshadweep. However, the Islamic history cannot be traced back to these communities. Next, you talk about, if you compare the North India, in North India, how Islam came. So we know that it is because of the invaders who came from the Central Asia, such as Mughal Empire in the during the times of Babur, and even before that, slave dynasty was there. So all the Islamic influence in North India is largely a result of a political contest or increase of political powers by these invaders. However, if you talk about the Indian Ocean region, the islands of Indian Ocean, including Lakshadweep, or the coastal regions such as Kerala and Tamil Nadu, here the Islamic influence is significantly less politically contested. It was a result of trading activities, merchant movement rather than the political conquest. So that is how Lakshadweep differ from the North India. Now the next is, what are the evidences we can give in support of this theory given by Andrew Forbes that it is the Arab merchants who have caused the influence of Islam in the Lakshadweep. So first of all, Lakshadweep islanders, if you look at their language, especially the dialect, they speak Malayalam with a greater admixture of Arabic words than the mainland Mappilas. Mappila communities living in Kerala, they are also speaking Malayalam, but their Malayalam dialect is different as compared to Lakshadweepian dialect, because there in Lakshadweepian dialect you have a strong influence of Arabic. So that first of all proves that Arabic influence in the past must have been very strong to change the language. Second, if you look at the script even which they use to write Malayalam languages, they write Malayalam in the Arabic rather than the Malayali script. That is the second evidence pointing toward the influence of Arabian sailors and traders. And third, Islam was introduced in these areas mainly through the commercial interaction that we also have proof about. If you look at the past history, especially during the medieval time, when there was a lot of interaction going on between the Arabian communities and the Lakshadweepian communities, largely due to the monsoon effect, because we know that during the summertime, the monsoon winds as well as the ocean currents are blowing from southwest to northeast. So taking advantage of this ocean currents and wind, a lot of traders from Arab and Africa used to come to India. And during the winter time, the monsoon current, including ocean currents and the winds, change their direction, moving from northeast to southwest. So during those times, they used to return back to their homeland. So it is this circulation of the ocean currents and the reversal of the ocean currents along the monsoon winds that have caused increased interaction, commercial interaction between the Arabian Peninsula and the Indian coastline. So that is what we can say or provide evidences in support of the Forbes theory. Now, other thing that we can talk about is the cultural development of Lakshadweep, which has taken a quite a different path as compared to the Islamic culture as we see on the mainland India. And this we can trace back again to the history that is history of Portuguese over Lakshadweep, as well as the history of a kingdom that is called as Arakal Kingdom. So somewhere in the 16th century, Arakal Kingdom of Kannur is again a region in Kerala, which is the only Muslim dynasty to have ruled in Kerala. So during that time, Arakal Kingdom of Kannur actually was frequently at loggerheads or frequently having a political conquest, a military conquest with the European powers, especially the Portuguese powers, and controlling Lakshadweep was a matter of prestige both for the Portuguese as well as the Arakal Kingdom. Now it is during this political conquest, Portuguese made a very strong effort to take over the entire Lakshadweep island And somewhere in the mid 16th century, there was a massacre of hundreds of locals by the Portuguese to assert their influence. Now, because of the Portuguese and later on the Arakkal Kingdom, they came to terms with each other. They signed a pact, signed a treaty, and after that, the mainland rulers, they were allowed to enjoy eventually a certain degree of protection in this regard. So if you look at the culture of Lakshadweep in the light of all the developments that we had discussed today, if you look at the languages of Lakshadweep, about 84% of people speak Malayalam. Dhivehi is a Mahi dialect which is spoken by 14% of the people, and remaining 1.4% of people speak some other languages. So we can understand this from the perspective that since Lakshadweep enjoyed a degree of protection, they were having a degree of insulation from the political conquest or development that is happening all across the mainland India. And this is something which began during the 16th century, during the time of Portuguese, and then it went all the way up to or during the time of British as well, or during British rule, we can say. Further till 1908, if you look at the history of Lakshadweep, Arakkal Kingdom of Kannur retained a part of Lakshadweep in return for a tribute which they used to pay to the East India Company, and later on when East India Company was disbanded, they started paying the tribute to the crown of UK itself, that is the Queen itself and the King itself. So that is the second thing. Third, because we know geographically it is very, very isolated. So due to geographical isolation, what we see in Lakshadweep is relatively less influence of colonialism. And it is due to this reason, culture and society of Lakshadweep have evolved very differently as compared to the rest of India. In fact, no one cultural influence dominated the Lakshadweep Islands. That is why it has as many as 3 main languages, as you can see from here: Malayalam, Jajari, and Mahi dialect. The other unique characteristic of Islamic society in Lakshadweep is a following of matrilineal system of inheritance, or largely what we can say, the society itself is a matrilineal society. So basically the tradition of matrilineal we talk about, it refers to such system where the descent, that means the transfer of property as well as the transfer of lineage, happens through the mother's line. That means the property will transfer from mother to daughter, daughter to her daughter, and not in the male line as we see in the generally prevailing patriarchal system all across India. So perhaps it has been observed by historians that nowhere would a social system appear so incompatible with the ideologies of Islam, because everywhere where Islam is being practiced and being followed, patriarchy is the norm there. Lakshadweep is the only exception. That is why what we can say, perhaps nowhere would a social system appear so incompatible with the ideology of Islam and demand so much adjustment and accommodation as in the matrilineal society. This is something which has been highlighted by a book called as Matrilineal Islam, the Religion and Society in the Lakshadweep, again published in year 1969. Now, if you compare the similar practice of matrilineal like in Lakshadweep, it is followed in other regions of Indian Ocean as well. For example, you talk about mainland India, similar system is being followed in the Kerala. Apart from that, some of the other Indian Ocean islands like Mozambique country, that is in Africa, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Tanzania. And third, the islanders believe their practice of matrilineal is not despite of Islam, but because of it. And that is, it becomes very, very interesting, because it is believed by this community that the Prophet Muhammad lived with his first wife Khadija in matrilocal system, and this is the religious sanction for their matrilineal practice. That means they believe they are not doing anything that is against the rules and tradition of Islam. They are following what is actually inherent in the Islam and is seen in the life of Prophet himself. So that is all about the history and brief culture of the geography of the Lakshadweep. Now we come to the geography of the Lakshadweep. Now obviously we have seen in the photos, and as you can see from this picture here, Lakshadweep is a very, very what we can say, a beautiful island surrounded by blue azure waters of the Indian Ocean from all the side, and the entire island basically is covered with what we can say is the palm and the coconut plantations. Plus the sands, if you look at the Lakshadweep Islands, they are very fine quality of sand, white sand, and that is why they are resembling very, very similar to what we see about Maldives. Overall, Lakshadweep is a group of islands. Roughly 25 major islands are there, which are surrounded in two groups, the northern groups and the southern groups. Northern groups, it is called as Amindivi Island, while in the southern group of islands are collectively referred as a Cananore Island. Now, one of the most developed islands of Lakshadweep and also is the southernmost island of Lakshadweep is what we call as Minicoy, which is separated from the other islands by a small narrow water body that we refer as a 9-degree channel. Now, if we talk about Lakshadweep, that how the islands have come into existence, have formed, these islands are what we can say is of coral origin. Now, corals we know are a small, tiny, microscopic marine organisms whose outer shell or outer skeleton is made up of calcium carbonate or limestone. So, when these organisms die, they gradually settle at the bottom of the ocean. Bottom of the ocean means near the coastal areas, up to a depth of 100, 200, 300 meters. And above this platform, which is called as coral reef, we have the development of live corals. As gradually the live corals start to die, the overall thickness of the reef keep on increasing, and finally it emerges above the island in form of what we can call as coral reef, and which is called as coral reef island. And an island which is surrounded by land, water from all the sides, such coral islands are called as atoll islands. So in brief, what we can say, Lakshadweep are an example of atoll island or atoll island group. So overall, that is why you will see everywhere the islands are nowhere higher than 5 to 6 meters above sea level, and that is why these kind of islands are very prone to rise in sea level, because even a small rise in sea level could flood a large part of the island and make it uninhabitable. So that is all about the Lakshadweep, the geography, history and culture. I hope you got a basic understanding and introduction about the Lakshadweep island and also the reason why it has made the news headlines. That is all for this video. Thank you.